I'm Indra, and I'd like to welcome you to the Messy Middle Matters, where my friends and I explore all the twists, turns, and challenges that arise in the messy middle of work. Hey, Amanda, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you, Indra?
I'm good. I'm so happy that you're joining me today for a topic that I know that everyone can probably relate to in one way or another. What we're going to be talking about today is when you're looking for a role, yes, everyone knows how to hunt for the red flags of like the things that like trigger, you're like, oh, that's not going to be for me. But like what we're going to talk about today is talking about finding the green flags, finding the green
Yeah.
flags.
Yeah, I love this mindset shift, right? Because like
Yeah.
if you're looking for the red flags, you're being active about looking for what's wrong, right?
Yeah.
And like shifting your mindset to looking for the green flags, instead of being on the defensive and looking for, the red ones, the negativity in your interview process.
100%. And because it's so it's just such a it's difficult when whether you're trying to find your next gig and you're freelancing, whether you're looking for a full-time role, no matter what you're trying to do, especially in this particular market, which is wacky right now. I just keep using the word wacky because there's so many other words I can use, but I think that sums up all of it. It can get really easy to get down on yourself and be like, I can't find anything that's like well suited or they're not responding to me. But if you start focusing on those green flags, you're focusing on the positive, like you were just saying, which I love, which I love, which I love.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the idea of looking for the green flags is more aligned to what you and I have talked about in past episodes, right?
Yeah.
Like the growth mindset, leading with curiosity and just focusing more on what's in this for me, right? Like what positivity can this opportunity bring for me?
Yeah, 100%. And I think it's not to say that you shouldn't look for those red flags, but I think those red flags, it's our our reptilian brains are very attuned to those fight or flight things, those instincts that have built over thousands and thousands of years within us as beings. So like over indexing on thinking about those green flags, I think is a good thing. Um so do you have any do you have I know which way I go when I start looking for green flags or even evaluating roles to see if they have any green flags. Do you want me to start or do you want to start from your side?
Start from my side.
Let's do it.
When I was thinking about what my own green flags were,
Yeah.
um, one thing that's really important to me is a structured interview process.
Okay.
Like it's a signal to me that this company, or at least this HR team, has their stuff together, right? Like I've gotten an interview confirmation email that not only had the basic, agenda, like here's for your meeting and like at what time, but like what their title was, what area of expertise that specific person on the panel was evaluating. And also like setting expectations about how soon I should receive a decision on whether I was moving forward. And like to me, that's a signal of, you know, they have their stuff together, and it can be a signal of what it's like to work there. And like that is important to me.
Yeah, I love when you're talking about this. I think that it's hitting for me is it's important for each one of us to define our own green flags. What's a green flag for you may be a red flag for me, right?
Right.
And I'm not saying that this is the exact case, but I want everyone to, as you're listening to this stuff, use it as seeds for either you can borrow our seeds of ideas, right? Always, right? But you're also welcome to find your own, because for some people, like too much follow-up might be too much because, they're applying for lots and lots of roles, and that might be just like information overload. It's find the green flags that work for you, which is really, really nice.
Right.
Which
Because we're
brings
all
me to
different
like,
people.
what was that?
We're all different people.
We're all different people. We're all different people. And, if people have listened to more than one episode of The Messy Middle Matters, they've probably heard me talk about how I leverage AI, specifically ChatGPT. I use others as well, but ChatGPT is the one I use the most frequently. But what I've done, because I've trained that, really well. One of my favorite ways to evaluate opportunities in any and all kinds of opportunities is to feed it into GPT because it does know me well. Say, hey, can you review this and see how well this would suit me and my goals? Whether that's, being a guest on someone else's podcast, whether that's a role, whether that's a this, whether it's a that. And the way that I've trained it, it now it gives me, okay, so here are the strengths of that opportunity. Here are the weaknesses of that opportunity. Here's a score. It scores them for me. And then it pulls out some of those things that I may not have clocked. Like there was one that I fed into it somewhere over the past year. I don't remember when, but it fed it back like, yeah, I see exactly why you thought this was a great opportunity for you, but you need to be fluent in Mandarin. I'm like, oh, I totally missed that when I scanned this. And goodness gracious, not fluent in Mandarin at all. I might be able to say the word rice in Mandarin, but that's about it. You know, it helps to catch a lot of the things because when we're reviewing things, no matter how closely we review them, our brains are very good at tricking us. The AI is less likely to let some of that stuff slide that we just like sort of might have skimmed over, might have missed the word, or might have like our cognitive brains might have just dismissed that and just gone on to the next relevant thing that might be because we're looking for fit, like we're looking for the things that really align for us. So that's my favorite trick is using generative AI to help evaluate stuff.
Yeah, it's interesting that because I've been thinking about this from like an interviewing perspective, right? Like talking to people, but it's interesting to hear that you are using you're trying to spot the green flags and using the tools at your disposal, like AI to do this even before you apply to a job or right as you apply to a job.
Any and all stages. So, like, it'll be before I reach out and I spend my time to make sure I tailor my messages and whatever, prepare a proposal, tailor something. Um, or it could be even afterwards. Like, this is the conversation I had. Like, I need an objective set of eyes. Like, and yes, it's my retelling of it. Like, if I don't have my other AIs turned on to, record the transcript and whatever, right? But I might retell it like, this was the scenario. This is what was going on. Can you give me a read on it? Like, what is your feeling about it? Because I want to have a different, someone else's opinion, or technically something else's opinion, but a different opinion on it, a different set of eyes on it. So I will use it at any and all stages of all sorts of work, including opportunities, or like even post opportunity. These are smaller, and this is less about identifying them. But like the reason I use it sometimes even after something has come to fruition, I'm like, what did I miss? Like, what did I look at? So like I'm prepared for the next time that there's like my green flag radar, red flag radars are better attuned for the next time that I wind up in that scenario.
Yeah. Um, I'm curious how did you prompt your AI tools to um to identify what your green flags are so that, when you're asking it a question about this job description or what happened here,
Yeah.
um like it can spit out the information that you need to ensure that you're aligned or maybe not aligned.
It's a good question. So I've been training it for lots of things. I use it for almost everything, and some people might, wince at that. And I have my own reasons for it, but I've fed everything into it when it comes to organizing my business. I've fed everything into it regarding the podcast. So all the topics we talk about, it knows about in some way, shape, or form. I regularly have tweaked my resume and all those LinkedIn profiles, blurbs, copy for my website, and then, so like, that's like the long view of what I've fed into it. But in that moment when I'm prompting it, because again, a wacky market, and I will not fib. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I definitely want to stay the independent track. And sometimes like, you know what? I really would like a team again. And I'd love to be part of a team. So sometimes I think about those full-time roles, and I don't the world is not forcing me down one path or the other, right? No one's holding anyone to anything, right? But you have to be skillful about how you navigate back and forth between those and how you position yourself. So I'll give it the context of this particular moment. Hey, right now I'm in the mindset of X, and these are the things that I'm looking for. Don't want to abandon Y, but this is the stuff. Can you help me evaluate these roles? And so I'll feed it one role at a time. And then and then that'll evaluate. And I use that same I don't even know what the terminology is for it, but the same thread I will use across all the different things until that thread starts hallucinating and getting too wacky. Or like context jumping and it does weird stuff. Might start a fresh one. But that's how I've done it. Have you used any sort of AI in your evaluations or no?
Not to the extent that you have, as you described, but more of I'll feed it job descriptions and I'll feed it my current version of my resume, right? And I'll ask it like, is this a good fit? If it, like tell me about this, or like if you think
Yeah.
it's a good fit, like is there anything I should change in my resume to tweak it so that like the AI on their side can pick up my resume better, right? Yeah.
But I love that process too, because in that process, when it feeds back, like you should position you and I happen to work at Automox together, so I'll choose that one.
Hmm.
So you
Yeah.
should position your Automox role in this particular way, and you can look at those bullets and be like, ooh, I don't
Hmm.
want to be seen like that. Like, and that to me is a way of, that's a red flag. Like, ooh, maybe this isn't the role for me. Let me reread this a little more closely. But if it nails it, you're like, ooh, green flag. That's exactly the
Right.
stuff I was most excited about from that from that role. And I would love to do that again. So that's a way of finding the green flags and using it the way that you're talking about it, like tailoring your resume, tailoring your summaries, tailoring your cover letter. I know there's a lot of whatever out there around, negative feedback on us using AIs for doing that stuff. But the reality of it is most employers expect something that is tailored to them.
Hmm. Right.
And how do you expect us to do all of this and like and still keep our sanity? So I am pro AI and all that stuff.
Right.
So
Especially in this wacky market, right?
it is
Yeah, so like I asked
wacky.
specifically about, how you use AI and how you're prompting it and what you're thinking about, because like I think we want to talk about the figuring out the framework, right? Like
Mhm.
figuring out what, or giving the listeners a framework to use to figure out what their green flags are.
And I think that that's so there's lots of ways to do that. I mean, the way that I used to do it in the pre AI days is do a brain dump with like 500 colored post-its and then I'd cluster post-its, right? Like, because again, anyone who's met me knows I love a post-it and a Sharpie. Um, but and then see what surfaces, like, or even like having a notebook and I jot down the words that are there and see what surfaces and see what are the things that are the most important to me, you know. But in the world of AI, I know people have used mind mapping software and all sorts of other things too for that. In the world of AI, you can use your AI to figure that out. Be like, hey, I don't know what I want. What questions can you ask me to figure out what my green flags are? Right. How can you, like, what questions can you ask me to help, or what questions can I answer for you to help identify which roles would be best suited for me. And then it gives you those questions and you don't even need to brainstorm those, right? And then it collects that into its own memory, right? Again, so like to me, it's a time saving issue. It's a gut checking issue. I can always, you have to check your AI and say, that's not what I meant. That's not what I want. Right. Last night I had an interaction with Chat GPT where it interpreted something that I said, y'all, I'm giving away a big secret here right now. Um, interpreted something that I said in a very positive connotation because I used the word impressive. But what people don't know, I mean, I think people who pay attention to me know this, but people who are not paying that close attention, I use the word impressive in such a spectrum of ways. It's sometimes it's the oh bless your heart version of impressive. And sometimes like, oh my gosh, that's really impressive. And it can be anything in between, right? So I had to correct him, like, just so that we're clear, add this to your memory. When I say impressive, I may or may not be sarcastic. I may or may not be, neutral. May not be like super positive. So check and ask, please. So you're allowed to check your GPT and say, that's not what I meant. And if it, again, back to if it starts being not useful and it's like I feel like it's completely disconnected from me, I start a brand new chat window and then I start fresh. See, like it has some of the most important memories locked in its main knowledge base, but then that refreshes it just a little bit for me.
Yeah, I do the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you used it to ask it, figure out what questions you should even begin to ask?
But more so from a like oh, I'm about to talk to somebody, and here's the job description. Here's what I know about the opportunity.
Yeah.
And like, here's a list of questions that I plan on asking because,
Yeah.
I have a handful of questions that I like to ask during every interview process, like no matter what the role is, right?
Yeah.
And I'll ask it, is there anything else that I should be assessed? Like, what other questions should I be asking? Is there anything that I might have missed based on all of the context that you know here?
Yeah. And that's another way to like this. So, do you have any green flag questions that you love to ask? Like to find your green flags during an interview process, whether it's the phone screen or like deeper in the interview cycle?
My one of my go-to in my handful of questions is,
Yeah.
what does success look like in this role?
And when is it a green flag and when is it a red flag? That answer. I'm curious. Like, 'cause I'm imagining the green flag and the red flag answers right now.
Yeah, for me, a signal of a green flag is, yes, the actual answer to the question, but what I like to assess is the consistency across answers from different interviewers.
That's interesting. That's actually good. Was thinking like the worst red flag in that question is like, I don't know.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm like, I am in a role that I should know that answer. I might even be the hiring manager and I don't know that answer. Like, that's not always a red flag because, depending on your role, depending on your scenario, depending on a lot of things, and depending on how they phrase it, it might not be a red flag. But a lot of times when they're like, I don't know, I've never thought about that.
Right. Well, especially from the hiring manager.
Come on, friend, you can do better
Yeah.
than that.
But yeah, I like, for me, like one of the green flags that I look for is the consistency, right? Like, I've worked at places where they put their best, most positive people on the panel, and like
Hmm.
that might not be representative of of the greater team or company, right? And so like I like to assess for consistency.
Yeah. So let's talk about green flags that you find when you're evaluating the company, right? When you're really, and that might be after you've applied. That like there's a different order of operations in different scenarios. But I know that both of us do this when especially when we're talking about full-time roles. Like, look, how do you assess that that company is one that you might thrive in?
I go straight to their company values page. And some companies incorporate this into their interview process, right? Of assessing you for their company values. But I like to do the same. I like to assess them on their own company values. Like, for example, if a company value is strong collaboration, right?
Mm,
I'll ask questions specifically about, you know, what was the last project that your team delivered that, you know, needed cross-functional collaboration? Can you tell me more about that? And I'll just like probe a little bit to see like if they walk the walk.
yeah. I'd say when you're talking about values, the other thing that I do when I take a look at somebody's values page is the order in which they list said values. Now they may not
Uh-huh.
live them in that order, but I always see what order they're listed in because two that you'll often find, and they're not phrased necessarily this way, but there is a we care about our employees value.
Huh?
And then there's the we care about, well, let's do three. We care about our customers value. And there's the we care about our shareholders value. And whether, let's say it's a private company, they're still shareholders. They're even that if you're privately held, there's some sort of version of shareholders, right? Um, the sequence in which those are listed says an awful lot about a company, right? Because and in a lived experience, they might be different, but seeing how they choose to put that on their values page says an awful lot.
Right. It's a choice to put the words on the page the way they are.
And
Words
handily,
matter.
I just chose because we're doing this episode, my words matter mug, right? Because words matter. It really, really does. The other thing that I look at when I'm looking at a company is their board of directors and their leadership team.
Same.
'cause that says an awful lot about, like, whether or not they can change it is a different story, like, and whether they've chosen to change it is a different story, but the board of directors and senior leadership pages are fascinating. Fascinating.
For me, all I'll say about this for now is a picture says 1,000 words.
It really does. It really does. If the grayscale is too homogenous, it's usually, or if it's too homogenous in other ways, I generally don't know if it's an organization I'll thrive in. Personally.
Right.
Personally.
Personally, like that's a green flag that I'm looking for, a more diverse set of directors, leadership, C team, even like the company as a whole. Like I'll look at LinkedIn and see who works at that company and just do a quick scrolly scroll.
Or have all these people worked together at the same company for all these years? Or did they all go to the same university? Or there's lots of ways to assess this stuff. And again, you need to know what green flags you're looking for to figure out, is that the fit for me? Is that the fit for me? Yay. I'm trying to think. I'm like, I feel like we hit an awful lot of stuff, including stuff I didn't even know that we'd even talk about. Like,
Same.
this feels like a weird place to end, but I also feel really like I'm trying to go through my brain, because it is figure out what you're evaluating on when it comes to green flags. Everyone sees my Band-Aid today. I scratched myself this morning. Goodness gracious. So evaluate the roles to see how they suit you, right? Or you figure out what you're evaluating them on. Evaluate the roles to see how they suit you. Evaluate the companies to see how they suit you. Evaluate the people to see how they suit you. And just do your best. Do your best, but
Yeah.
look for the positives, not just the negatives.
Right. You're looking for fit, not for reasons not to join this company.
100, because if you did that, there's not too many places that we'd all wind up, because there's always something to be found somewhere, right?
Right, right. No company is perfect, right?
No
But yes,
company.
I think it is a big part of this is doing that self-reflection piece, or use AI to help you with your self-reflection, however you
Whatever
want
tools
to
you
do that.
want.
Right,
Right.
whatever tools you want to really think about what you are looking for in your next role and figure out how to structure your evaluation process to look for the things that fit you.
Right. And I think the last thing that I think that I'd like to add is the fact that, it's always good to figure these things out if you can when you're in a good headspace. When you're in a good headspace, and set them ahead of time when you're in that headspace, because when you're evaluating, that might be a bad day, there might be a bad market, you might be feeling a little bit stressed, and your evaluation criteria, like inner evaluation criteria, is not working so well. You need to rely on that external something, whether it's your checklist, whether it's another tool, whether it's another human being who helps you look at that stuff. Figure it out on a good day, and then always touch on it so that you don't undersell yourself in the moment when you're a little bit stressed out.
Yeah, I think that's great advice.
Amanda, yet another useful conversation. I trust that everyone got something good out of it today, and I hope y'all will join us next time when we cover another topic from the messy middle. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks for taking time with us in the messy middle. Word of mouth remains the most powerful way for people to find us. If this episode sparked something for you, we'd love it if you'd subscribe to the podcast on your favorite app, download a few episodes, and share it with someone else who's navigating the in between. Do you have ideas for future episodes or topics you'd like us to explore? You can find our feedback form at themessymiddlematters.com or in the show notes. Thank you for joining us on this journey. This work is better when we do it together. Until next time.